The world continues calling for a ceasefire when they should be calling for a surrender. Not only surrender by Hamas, but unconditional surrender, including the release of all 132 hostages who are still being held in captivity inside Gaza. More and more testimonies are coming out from those who survived October 7th and those who were in captivity but then released in the first hostage exchange negotiations. One such testimony is what we're going to talk about today. It's both chilling and shocking. A lady from a kibbutz near the Gaza border was kidnapped by a 17-year-old boy, taken to Gaza, and then sold to Hamas. All of the details and much more on today's show. I'm Luke Hilton, and this is the Israel Guys. Guys, welcome to the Israel Guys, where we believe that in a world of anti-Israel propaganda and Jew hatred, you should have a direct connection to the land and people of Israel. Glad to have you with us as we get more and more into 2024. Please make sure you subscribe on whatever platform you're listening or watching and hit those notifications if you can, so you don't miss out on our daily content coming out from Israel. And if you're a new viewer or listener, make sure you leave us a comment down in the comment section below. Or if you're listening on podcast platforms, leave us a rating. We'd love to hear from you. And follow us on social media. We're hanging out on Twitter or X a lot, at the Israel Guys. All those links down in the description below. So we're going to talk more about Israeli hostages, because even though it has been a while since a lot of the hostages were released, they're just now really, their testimonies are starting to get out there. Many of them, it took a while for them to be willing to share their testimonies, but more and more videos with interviews from released hostages and survivors from October 7th are beginning to come out. I encourage you guys, look up these videos, look up these testimonies yourself, watch them. A lot of them are in Hebrew, but all of the ones I've seen so far have English subtitles. You can check our source links down in the description below. You'll find some of those testimonies, especially the ones we're going to talk about today. There is a video circling social media. If you hang out on social media, you've probably seen it. I don't know if it was first started yesterday or the day before, but it's like a 5-second video of 4 Israeli girls in captivity in Gaza, just showing them very beaten and bruised and bloodied. I did some research, found out the video was taken by Hamas right after these girls were taken into captivity, but for some reason or another, it's making it's making its rounds right now. But you can see that video, and I wanted to play it because we need to be reminded that this is still going on. We're coming up on 100 days since October 7th, 100 days since 132 Israeli hostages have been in captivity. It's horrific. It's more than 3 months, and we're going to talk about a special comprehensive report put together detailing about how some of these hostages cannot survive 100 days in captivity. Also, big questions like how many of them are even alive right now? How many of them have already been killed? What's their health condition? 100 days. And you need to remember these faces. You need to remember these names. These 4 girls that you're seeing on the screen. Agam Berger, she's 19. Liri Elbag, 18. Daniela Gilboa, 19. Karina Ariev, also 19. You need to remember these faces. You need to remember these names. And we need to continue doing our part to make sure they're released and brought home soon. And that we give the support Israel needs to eradicate Hamas. A little bit more information about these girls, because it's very disturbing. And this is a Times of Israel article, also quoting, I believe, the Daily Mail, UK. Because there's testimonies from other survivors and other hostages, they're able to now give Israel and the IDF and the government information about other hostages that they saw in Gaza or places that they were. A lot of the hostages were moved from place to place to place. Sometimes they were in tunnels. Sometimes they were in apartments. Sometimes they were in houses. The Times of Israel article, Chen Goldstein Almag, who was freed on November 26th with her 3 children, reported seeing the 4 teenagers, the 4 girls that you just saw in that video, in a Gaza apartment during her captivity. She said, quote, "Some of them are close in age to my daughters, and I hugged them so hard." But she also went on to say, quote, "Some of the girls were badly wounded and have not been getting proper medical care. Gunshot wounds, even lost limbs. They can cope with the disability, but not with the manner in which they were violated. They're strong and have not lost hope, but they were on the edge 5 weeks ago when we were separated from them. They need to be released. They cannot be there for one more day. This was 5 weeks ago that this one released hostage is saying she saw them before that. Now we're talking about 5-6 weeks later. We're talking about 100 days in captivity, lost limbs, gunshot wounds. Talk about violations of international law, violations of human rights. These girls and all of the other hostages inside Gaza need to be released right now. I want to talk about a particular interview. I realized it just did not have the scope or the time to cover all of the interviews that I saw today as I was researching, but I want to talk about one because it's very interesting, very chilling, very shocking, and you need to hear this. Channel 12, Israel's Channel 12, interviewed Neely Margalit, age 41. She was captured at kibbutz near Oz on October 7th and was later released on November 30th. Interestingly enough, and you can watch this interview for yourself, just find the link down below, she was not captured by Hamas. She talks about her door being broken down, and then what does she see? A 17, maybe 18-year-old boy comes walking into her house. His arms are full of whipping cream that he found in her house, decided to steal. He demands money from her. She gives him her wallet and says, "There's money in my wallet." He has this massive knife, and she goes with him because he's taking her hostage outside the house where there's more terrorists, more people with weapons and guns waiting for her. They put her on a golf cart that they stole. Later on, she finds out they murdered her father from the kibbutz and stole his ATV. She sees a 15-year-old boy driving towards her on her father's and her murdered father's stolen ATV. And then she goes to the border fence with Gaza. She also realizes this 15-year-old boy is coming out of Gaza. He'd already been inside Israel, gone back to Khan Yunis in Gaza, and then come back into Israel. So you have teenagers and civilians going in and out of Gaza and into Israel on October 7th. They take her from the golf cart, stuff her into a car. Another elderly Israeli woman is stuffed into the car with her from her kibbutz. She recognizes and manages to help comfort her. And then she's driven into Gaza. And what happens when she gets inside Gaza? She's taken into Khan Yunis. She's driven to a warehouse building. She sees an opening in the ground and realizes it's a tunnel shaft, and she's about to be taken underground, right? But what happens first? An intense negotiation takes place. And she realizes there's all this gesticulating, arms waving, and the civilians who captured her are arguing with Hamas. And what happens in the end? They sell her to Hamas because it was not Hamas who captured her from her home on October 7th. It was a 17-year-old boy. It was other civilians who drove her into Gaza and then transferred her over to Hamas, presumably for money or other benefits. You need to get that into your head. You need to understand this. Civilians came out of Gaza on October 7th. Yes, Hamas terrorists came out, but also civilians, including 15-year-old, 14-year-old, 17-year-old boys and children from Gaza, captured a 41-year-old woman with a knife, stealing her whipped cream from her fridge and her money, stuffs her into a car and a golf cart, drives her into Gaza, sells her to Hamas, and then they stuff her down into a tunnel. And thankfully, she was freed on November 30th. We're not realizing this. The world is not realizing this yet, and we have to understand the reality of the situation on the ground. This is actually what's happening. So all those protests you're seeing on the news, ceasefire now? No, there's no ceasefire now. There's only unconditional surrender now and the release of the hostages. Did you know there are 304,901 words in the Hebrew Bible? That's a lot of words, but what if the key teachings of the Bible could be distilled into just 75 words? Yes, you heard it right, 75 words. Your Bible study will never be the same what you've read, 75 Hebrew words you need to understand the Bible. This beautifully crafted coffee table sized book captures the essence of the Hebrew Bible, unraveling the hidden meanings of the 75 most pivotal Hebrew words. Hebrew is God's language. Each word is a portal to profound wisdom, accompanied by a deep dive essay, connections to related words, and secrets accessible only through the Bible's original language. Immerse yourself in the scriptures with their purest form, with translated and transliterated verses providing rich context. I want to show you guys, this is actually a really beautiful book. I want to show you what it looks like, because each page has a Hebrew word, has a beautiful photo, and it has the English and the Hebrew and the transliteration, as well as what the word means. This page says blessing, which is bracha in Hebrew, meaning you can actually learn how to pronounce it. You can learn how to read it in Hebrew, and it has all the related verses, the meanings, and a beautiful photo at that. Guys, this book is perfect for gifting, starting meaningful discussions and reflection. It's great for a lot more than just a fascinating read. It's an experience that will transform your Bible study. And here's the best part, it makes a fantastic gift. Don't miss the chance to enrich your spiritual path. Secure your copy today and gift the experience of understanding to your loved ones. Visit the link below to bring home 75 Hebrew words you need to know to understand the Bible today. Just click that link down below, guys. Perfect gift for you, perfect gift for your family or your friends. 75 Hebrew words you need to know. Link is in the description below. As we approach 100 days since October 7th, the headquarters for the families of the hostages put together a comprehensive medical report talking about the health risks and the challenges of the hostages now that we're coming on 100 days. We're talking about elderly, women, children, babies, people who already had health conditions. And I just want to read you a couple of quotes from this report because it really helps sink in the seriousness of the situation. Quote, many hostages were kidnapped from home without visual aids, hearing aids, or mobility devices, worsening their health condition and mental well-being. Other hostages suffer from mental health issues, and yet others were injured during the brutal kidnapping and have still not received proper treatment for injuries that could worsen and become complicated. Professor Haggai Levine, head of the medical team at the family's headquarters, they set up a special headquarters for the families of the hostages in Gaza. He said, quote, all the hostages face immediate mortal danger. Some of the hostages will not survive 100 days in captivity without proper medical care due to the conditions of captivity and neglect of their health. The hostages were abandoned on October 7th as a nation that values life. We must not abandon hostages in the field. We must rescue them now. So we're talking 100 days, hostages that already had mental health problems, physical health problems, people that needed medication, people that needed their hearing aids, people that needed their glasses. The interview that I just talked about with Neely from Kibbutz Nir Oz, she grabbed her glasses and she stuffed them into her hand and like hid them under her clothes so that they wouldn't see them, so that she could sneak. She said, I can't do without my glasses. I'm the same way. I can't see without glasses or contact lenses. I understand this. But she hid them under her shirt so that they wouldn't confiscate them from her, so that she could have her glasses once she was in captivity. We're talking about people that now 100 days, maybe they have not survived. Of the 132 hostages still in captivity, how many of them are actually still alive? We have 105 that were released at the end of November. There's 8 bodies of hostages that have now been recovered. But 100 days, you have to remember that. We can't become complacent. We can't become silent. We have to understand the reality, and we have to change the narrative, and we can't go along with this whole mentality of ceasefire now, stop bombarding Gaza now, humanitarian aid for Gaza. No. Surrender now. Unconditional surrender now. Release the hostages now. Yesterday was a hard day in Gaza for the IDF. Another 4 soldiers in the IDF were killed. Sergeant Roe Tal, 19, from Kfar Yoshua. Sergeant First Class David Schwartz, 26, of Elazar. Sergeant First Class Yakir Hexter, 26, from Jerusalem. Sergeant First Class Gavriel Bloom, 27, of Beit Shemesh. That brings casualties for the IDF to 180 killed in Gaza since the start of the war. Continue to pray for these, for Israel's military. Continue to pray for their leaders, the government. Continue to pray for the hostages, who are still alive in Gaza. They must be brought home now. This is a humanitarian crisis, human rights violation, international law violation, and these hostages must be brought home now. As we wrap up, I wanted to show you one more video because it's fascinating. Again, obviously, you guys have seen videos of Arab men from Gaza, many of them terrorists, being captured by the IDF. Standard procedure for the IDF when they capture anybody is to strip them down to make sure they don't have explosives on them, handcuff them, and then afterward they identify them. And if they identify them and they're not, terrorists or anything relating to terrorism, then they let them go. But in the meantime, there's so many terrorists hiding or pretending to be civilians, and so many terrorists mixed in with civilians that they have to take every person they run into during the war very seriously. And that's why they strip them, handcuff them, identify them, and then they decide, oh, these are actually terrorists, and they go to prison, or they're just civilians and they were released. But this video, you can see in the video, you can hear them shouting. What are they saying? The translation is, "May God take revenge on Hamas. Hamas destroyed us. We've been living in poverty for 17 years. We're waiting for you, IDF soldiers, to save us." So these guys were happy to be captured by the IDF. Even standing there stripped to their underwear, they're happy to be captured by the IDF because they know that they don't have to suffer under the brutal regime of Hamas anymore. Again, forget the idea of a ceasefire. Forget the idea of all these protests all over the world, bridges being blocked, tunnels being blocked, cities being blocked off. Ceasefire now, ceasefire now. No. Surrender now. Unconditional surrender now. Release the hostages now. I want to start a trend of seeing these protests and demonstrations with signs that say surrender now. You realize Hamas frees the hostages and they unconditionally surrender. The war is over. That's the truth. We have to get that reality going. We have to spread that reality. We have to stand up for Israel. 100 days. We cannot be complacent. We cannot continue to sit idly by. We have to continue standing up for what is right. Guys, don't forget to pick up your copy, 75 Hebrew words. Click the link down in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe, whatever platform you're watching or listening on, and get that conversation going. I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, tune out the fake news. Tune into what is actually happening here in the land of Israel. We're here every day, Monday through Friday, with your direct connection to the land and people of Israel.